All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Benton Harbor. We on a slight delay, about 6 minutes there, because our guest was having some technical difficulties, which is always seem to happen. It's kind of funny how I'm the old guy, and these young guys, when they come on, can't seem to figure this stuff out. So, but we're back here today. We had a little break last weekend. Oh, I'm sorry, last Monday, but we're here back today. I'm Director McGinnis of the Benton Harbor Department of Public Safety. Of course, today is October. Today is not October 3rd. Today is October. What's today? October 17th?
17th.
All right. October 17th. And I am Dan McGinnis, Director of Public Safety here at the City of Benton Harbor. And you're on with Chat with the Chief that airs live every Monday from 9 o'clock to 10. We air on Benton Harbor Department of Public Safety's Facebook page, as well as to the City of Benton Harbor's YouTube page. And today we're on with James Gunter. Type of mistake I'm making today. Who had been with us before. He's back with us. We had to kind of reshuffle some guests there, but James with Present Pillars as well as the Boys and Girls Club. We're going to let him talk about those things. How you doing this morning, sir?
I can't complain. Life is good.
Okay. All right. You're a little low on my end. I'm not sure if you're low on the guests end also. So, good seeing you.
Always good to see you, Chief.
Again, it is. Yeah, I don't know. You're real low. I'm not sure. Anyway, we're gonna roll with it, James. So it's good to have you back. You're kind of back. I kind of call this episode kind of a recap, if you will, of like the past 6 months. Not really a recap, but kind of it is. So what I'm talking about today was going to feed into our discussion. First of all, thank God that brought us together, despite your technological deficiencies. You're a good person to know. I just pay attention though, James. Last time you were on the phone. All right, there we go. So you're a good person to know, a mover, shaker, up and coming in the community. So we've been trying to connect with people like you, and we've had a lot of really good guests on, really young guests. And here on the Chat with the Chief, we've had people on that have even had different views from us because, as I said before, this is not so much a patty cake puffery show, but to kind of talk about some issues. So I just kind of want to recap because we started Chat with the Chief back in April of this year, and looking at all the guests we've had on, and of course I'm not naming everyone, but like Pastor McAfee, yourself, Cece McFall, Dylan Barnes, Shaquille Turner. We try to get both sides of the street news, and we'll still hopefully get that done. But we came on, and then we were talking about the purpose, James, of not just me being here on here talking, but actually talking about issues that benefit, reflect, and affect and reflect the city of Benton Harbor, by extension of 49022. And some of the things that we started with, we talked about with McAfee and myself, is getting some priorities done. And I think we all are united around the fact that we want to reduce the gun violence of our youth in the community, and that's really kind of what we've primarily worked towards, which the things I kind of want to recap. But in one of the not versions, but one of the episodes, James, there was somebody that came on. So of course, chat with the submit comments. Matter of fact, I'll start my banner at the bottom via chat on either Facebook or YouTube. One thing I will say though, and I think we've been pretty open. I read most of the chats. Here's one thing I don't do though, and I don't respect. There's certain people that will create fake names and fake accounts just to get on certain things and make comments. There's a particular person who I know does that. I don't give that any credence. So, if you've seen somebody on here with some crazy name making comments, I know who that person is. I'm not giving that credence. If we're having a live conversation, if I'm on here live with my name, clearly it says whoops what it is, then we should be able to have a conversation with people using their real names. So outside of that, it's been wide open. It's been wide open. We've had some great comments. We've had people come on the show. We've had some differing opinions. We had some people that have let us have it, and that's what is important to me. Again, not just the warm and fuzzy fluff, but if you have an issue or grievance, something you want to discuss or comment you want to make, this is the forum for that. And if there's something that needs to go into further discussion, of course, I've given my phone number out. It gets me on internet, and we can talk directly. So anyway, so since then, sir, there have been quite a few people on, in what I guess probably would call movers and shakers. James, I think you probably don't look at yourself that way because I think you do like many of us. We just do what we do. That's what we do. It's not
That's
really
what
for
we do.
title, for glory. It's just you
Yeah.
just try to help. You see an issue, you try to help it. So the people we had on here. So going back to what I was saying before I got into the name thing, was there somebody that came on there and kind of made the comment? I'm paraphrasing. We're not stopping the violence because we don't really care. Which kind of sent me into kind of a little mini conniption because that's absolutely garbage. Obviously, absolutely false. And the whole point of Chat with the Chief, at least this year, starting it out, is trying to mobilize like-minded people who are movers and shakers, who are more willing to roll up their sleeves and do something about it than sit up and complain about it. So that's who we've been trying to connect with. Again, that's where it's people like you come. Shaquille Turner. Shaquille, he's full of energy, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
His zeal sometimes is on 12. But
I got to
he's
see him
come on the
drive a
show and
Bobcat the other day.
he's done what he says. So I just kind of want to look at, since we come on, chat with the chief, we started back in April. So first show was with McAfee. So for some of the first criticisms we have is we were too churchy. I said before that that's just part of me. I think I've done a good job. I think since trying to tone it down. However, that's what it's a part of me as what it is. Some of my best friends are in the church, and that is just me. So anyway, I think we've been better with that. We're not trying to have Pentecostal service on Chat with the Chief, obviously, but my faith is a big part of what I do. So anyway, we talked about that. We talked about coming together. We kind of started the show talking about unity, and that's the direction I want to go in with you, James. When I get through my soliloquy here, is talk about unity. But anyway, Pastor McAfee and I, we talked about the violence. We talked about unity, and unity not just in for the community or not just for the city officials, but for the churches. Where the churches at. We're issuing challenges to churches. Let churches be about really helping the community and not just talking about it or being silos, and they do their own thing. And although you got a couple of churches that want to work together, they don't because churches would rather do their own thing and don't play well in the sandbox. Um, so just real quick glance at some of the chat. Good morning, top of the morning to you also, Shaquille. Not all people. I know what this comment is too. When I said young guy, he can't do with technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's him. Not all young people. Yeah, I know he's big on technology. John Ford, they can hear you. Okay. One's low. So you're low to some of us, but not everybody.
Yeah.
That's the old people computers. All right, Shaquille Turner. Don't get out of control, son. So anyway, so we talked about that, and we talked about some social justice things, and we kind of defined what we thought was important. Not just social justice, not just being relationships between police and the citizens, but all aspects. The people outside and around Benton Harbor who don't respect the people inside Benton Harbor. That takes social justice. Treatment at the courthouse. That's a form of social justice. Not
Mhm.
that these things can't be done or these grievances can't be heard. It's just we've never tried to have some type of organized, unified front to try to address some of the questions or concerns that we have. Good morning, Commissioner Edwards. So those are some things that we talked about. We challenge churches to come and help. When it comes time when shots are fired, you don't see a whole lot of pastors that's getting up 3, 4 o'clock in the morning going to shooting scenes. I know you see McAfee. I know you see Lynch and some others, not very few others that do that. So we talked about how, in order for us to affect the violence in the community, we have to come together from all our various spheres of life, put down any differences. Matter of fact, use some of those differences as key points of strength, and then put our collective energies together, energies, resources, thoughts, ideas. There's some things, James, that you being a younger man than I, that you've experienced or has been a bit in your life that I don't experience, that I would defer to you because, I would be stupid to think that I know more than somebody that's younger. Right now, there are majors in college. My daughter's goes to Michigan State that didn't exist when I was in college.
Mhm.
We went on a school visit to Ball State. They have a whole department of something I never even heard of. So technology has changed. The way people live their lives has changed. The way youth consume media has changed. That's where you guys kind of come in. That's where Shaquille is always really kind of talking about that. You really got to hit the social media networks. So anyway, just looking at all right, 6 months, the call to action. So after that little conniption about when I said that when the guy said that we're not stopping violence because we don't care, I reminded you all. Some of you guys didn't know this about a brother that was murdered. I had a cousin that was murdered by gun violence. So I know what that's like. I know what it's like to be in a home of domestic violence growing up. So don't tell me that we don't care about stopping violence in our community, because many of us, the reason why we are cops is to stop that stuff the right way. That's important. That's a whole nother conversation, probably for a whole nother show. And hopefully we'll get into the forum that we're trying to perpetuate that you guys started. Terrific, terrific job, which is part of my diatribe here. So kind of bear with me, James. I'm working through. So with that, Shaquille Turner came on. Actually, he was so fantastic. We had him on twice. He talked about some things, his vision for the community, and things that he would do. Because remember, my challenge was, what are you out there doing, Benton Harbor, to help change our community, not just affect violence, but change our community? And the challenge went out. So I want to just look at some of the things that the guys that we talked to have done. And that's why you're back today, James, Mr. Gunter. So Shaquille put his money where his mouth is. He helped several aspects. Again, sometimes he gets ahead of himself, but his heart's in the right place. He's been part of a city cleanup. He's done many things in the community to try to organize. He's worked with school and school children. He's worked with fire safety. So here's a young man who's not just running his trap, and we know he runs his trap quite a bit, but he's not just running his trap. He's putting his actions, his words to actions. Okay, he's putting his words to actions. Pastor McAfee and I, we believe firmly that the church needs to get back to being what it used to be. We used to be social services. We used to be the Department of Human Services. If a family needed something, if there's trouble in the family, they didn't call the CPS, they didn't call DHS, they were calling the church, pastors, deacons. When there was families that were in need, there was a church that was giving money. It wasn't right now all these other programs you got to qualify for, and you can't make this much because if you do, then you can't get this. That's all a disaster. So the churches, McAfee and I were saying, should be given money and not just begging for money. Some things need to be said. I'll say it again because some people probably might be fearful to say this openly. We need churches to give some money to some of these efforts that we're talking about and not just be begging for money. I get so sick of the $100 line, the $50 line. God said there's 10 people with $20. That's a bunch of nonsense. Mm-hmm. So, church, we're still challenging you to step up and help with this effort with these young people in the community, the Shaquilles, the James, the CCs, the Courtneys. Again, so that was somebody that was on. We had Dylan Barnes that came on. Jumpstart youth athletics, has been around for 26 years. Needed some help. I'm friends with Dylan Barnes, as well as I'm familiar with his work, and we had connected, of course, by God. So I had to say that because that's what it was, to work together. Dylan has done for 26 years and continues to do great things with our youth with rocket football. He also does basketball. So when we had that conversation on, we had pledged, me, actually, I kind of walk as 2 votes. Me, myself, actually 3. Me, myself, the director of public safety. Me, myself, personally, my own personal time. And me, myself, also, pastor of a church, Greater Grace. So we had pledged as a church to Dylan to rocket football money. Again, the church should be giving money, not begging for money, because we saw that he had a need. I know also Pastor McAfee has pledged money to some organizations. We also gave money to one of the commissioners and one of her. She had an award, a resource day, which was phenomenal. So we're trying to pour back into the community as churches should be. Additionally, I said this, the way that I know me personally, James, again, I'm going to get to you, buddy. This
No,
is
you
a 6
good.
month review, sir. The way that I know how to give is through coaching. I'm a youth kind of mentor, coach, coach football, coach track. I have a bucket list to coach girls basketball at the middle school, so hopefully I can do that someday. But we said, okay, Dylan said I have a need. Here's what Dylan said I'm doing to help curb violence. I'm trying to get to these young kids early, flag football age, minor football, junior football age, to try to affect them with positive role models, let them see, have positive experienced team. That was his contribution. I think for me as a coach, me trying to get and work with our kids in our community, I had pledged to Dylan that I would volunteer with Rocket Football, get my own personal time to help him and help him in his vision for the kids. And actually, I've done that for 3 weekends. It's been fantastic. I think there's some pictures circulating around with me in an official's uniform. Uh, this past weekend, I was working with Rocket Football again, talking to the coaches, talking to the kids, both sides of the ball, talking to parents. So that's something that I did, we did, because at this point, I think, James, if there would be a title to this show, it would be "Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is."
Yeah.
You got some guys that came on here that says, here's what should be happening in the community. But are you putting your money where your mouth is to help be part of the change that you're saying that we need? So the people I'm talking about are the people that actually have done that. Then we've also had on there, you and Cece came on, um, uh, and we talked about the forum, that the teen forum, the youth violence teen forum. I might got the title out of whack, but um, that was something that we had. That was it. That Wednesday. That
Oh yeah, it was a Wednesday.
Yeah, we came on that Monday, and you guys were expecting about 75 people. You guys had at least 200.
At least.
So here we have again. You got a Shaquille Turner. You got a CC McFall. You got a James Gunter. You got a Nick Blue. And let me not forget, because I want to get into again. I'm almost there, so this long diatribe. Just bear with me. So these are examples of people who are on the show who, again, part of the thing is part of my thing I'm trying to do is pull together all these various organizations and all these various programs to at least have contact and know what it's not duplicate efforts. So, and there might be a situation where if we can get an alliance or consortium where we can share resources. So, say for example, Greater Grace has a bouncy house, Boys and Girls Club. James says, "Hey, Chief, can we borrow Greater Grace's bouncy house for an event we want to have?" Absolutely. We might say, "Hey, Boys and Girls Club, we want to do a girls' fireside basketball program for a week from 7 a.m. to 9. Can you use your gym?" Yes, you can. We could say, Abundant Life. We need to utilize your hall because we want to serve dinner there for kids, or we use that as a commissary as we do ministry in Thurgood to share, to bring those things together. So, it's been my thing, James, kind of coming with all that. I think also, and I think Pastor McAfee agrees, Pastor Palmer, my close friends agree that not only are we working to change our community now, we also have an obligation as older guys to take the James Gunters and the CC McFalls and help cultivate them, because they're going to be the next leaders. They're going to be the next directors of programs, the next probably people elected on the city commission, maybe even the next mayor or something. Who knows? So bringing these people together and making sure that A, we all know what each other are doing, and B, that we can help each other to be successful. And I think the next forum that we do is going to be way more successful, because you got, looking at the first one, when you sit down and break it down and do the plus and minuses, of course, the pluses were overwhelming. There's only a couple of tweaks we could do to make it better than make it a series. Oh my God, somebody has a whole long.
Whoa.
All right, Jared. So we're gonna read this one. Can you guys see this from where you are? For me, it's a side panel. The comments, because I usually put them on here, and this is this one. Okay, so hey, oh, Dennis, another guy, and here's a guy that again we want people that have a different opinion, and here's one thing with I know Dennis personally, he's a guy that we can talk, agree, disagree. You walk away. There's no angst. There's no animosity. No pissed offivity. Just two men that don't they'll come back together next time and they'll probably agree then. But let's read what Dennis says. Hopefully this is. I want to stay on vein. I'm almost done with my little speech here because I wanted to get into talk about Ashley coming up. But Dennis says my issue is not everyone is treated equally. Well, that's what we're talking about, Dennis. Social justice. Past issues keep the people put in place to serve and protect from serving and protecting all. And someone is in a position like this, their job is to not hold grudges, not judge, but to look at the evidence. Correct. I reached out to you personally with issues about the malicious prosecution that has always happened and continues to happen. And I reached out to the state. I'm still waiting to hear back. Okay. All right. So I will follow up on that, Dennis, and make sure that you hear back from something because you did do that. All right. And speaking of what we do and help our community, also should be welcome, not just those being picked or chosen to deem better, whether someone is donating all their money or time. Yeah, that's a good point. Just out here speaking to the real people of the community, not just the ones deemed worthy. See, but here, Dennis, is people like you that you're talking about that we want to connect with, not the people that seem to have. I see where you're going with that, and I agree with you. But it's people like you that's been there, done that, that's really got a message for these young people who I want to tap into. Because I think you know talking about what you can say and tell a person because you've been there and done that. So that's a good point, and I totally agree with you, Dennis. I'm gonna finish reading this. We're gonna move on. So the hearts are still sour, but the mouth says different. Said my piece. I'm gonna leave this here and move on. Just thought that things were different. It's not just a different approach to the demise of the community. So that was very, very long, but this is what I'm talking about. Here's a brother that has an opinion. He posted it. Again, there were some follow. I got to refollow up because we did talk. But that's an honest position, and I respect that. I don't agree with everything. Other things he made some really good points, so I get it. And that's why we're here, Dennis. So Dennis, I will definitely. Matter of fact, your paperwork's right here. So I will follow up with that and get back to you. Okay. Um, okay. So last thing we get into you, James, is we wanted to see, and this kind of feeds into Dennis's point. Young people saying up and coming leaders, and you're right, Dennis. You don't have to be the director of the Boys and Girls Club or the director of public safety or the fire. You're right because you got a lot of people out there that's made some mistakes when they're younger, going through some things, and have a message that's more powerful, more potent than anything that I could ever give because you've been there, done that, and I think it really gives you and men like you an appreciation of why it's so important to get these young people on the path early, the correct path early. So, I also believe that young people need to see people that look like us, meaning they came up through the streets of Ben Harbor, or there's somebody that resembles them. This is not really so much a color thing. This is having them be able to see somebody, Dennis. And I'm gonna really kind of pick on you, focus on you, to see somebody like a Dennis again that they can look up to and say, okay, I can listen to him because he's got a life story to tell. And it's people like so Dennis, the thing that separates the people I'm talking about is in the heart. It's not the position or the name on the door. If you want to take what you've been through and to teach another young man or young woman, or at least try to, that they not make the same decisions or mistakes, that's what we're talking about. And I think that our young people need to see people who look like us. You've heard me say before that I think not only do young men need to have young men as role models and mentors, but I would believe that young ladies need positive men and role models the same, if not even more. Let's be honest. So they can see how a true man treats a woman. They can see how a woman should demand to be treated. So, and with that being said, I also believe that we need more people like Ashley Hines, who will be on the show in I think in a week or two, because it can't just be about, especially with the violence, because we got women committing violence now too with guns. But we can't just focus on the young boys getting positive men role models, and we leave the young ladies out. And that's been one of my problems, one of my issues of making sure that we're equal. Again, back to Dennis's point, making sure that we're equal as far as our approach to what we're trying to affect and doing it through the right spirit. So I think that's very important. I can't wait for people to see Ashley, for young ladies to see an Ashley Hines, to see a Judge Mayfield, young girls that look like them. I'm trying to preach, look like them, but made it and got a story to tell. So then I'm gonna shut up. Jerry's got a hold on here. Dennis definitely been through it here. Yeah, you have been, buddy. Jerry, he's got sacrifice our personal life to make it happen for the youth of today. Will make peace for us tomorrow. That's it. Dennis said, "Would love to would love to try to keep what happened to me and my family from happening to others. My wills, but I lost them to the system." And Dennis, that's really honestly mainly, brother, why we talking. It's not just honestly, man. You know what? That's a whole nother conversation. Not just losing our young boys and young girls to gun violence, but also losing them to the system. That's a whole nother Pandora's box, Dennis Holbrook. Link, you gotta slow down because that's a whole show in itself. What you just brought up right there. Losing them to the system is as bad, almost as having your family destroyed because of gun violence. So anyway, James, I got through it. That was a recap, just really touching on some points of people who have stepped up again that are making a difference. Again, people even today like Dennis that are making some points like, hey, he's saying heard it all before. I believe, Dennis, I'm paraphrasing, heard it all before. What are we really going to do? Regardless of position, regardless of title, what are we going to do? So you have two hats. You got present pillars, at least that I know of. You also work for the Boys and Girls Club. You have a new position there. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So let's talk about your present pillar because I forgot to mention when I got to you, not only did you have the forum, but you followed it up with Donuts with Dads. That was very successful. There's some things that you're doing to help cultivate leadership in men and fathers. So talk about those things, talk about the Boys and Girls Club, and then I want you to talk about seeing the success of the first forum that you and CC did. And we've already started the conversation of taking that and moving it forward. What would be your idea or your vision of taking that lecture series to help educate kids and people in our community? Got the floor, brother.
All right. So I will start one more time.
And thank you for your patience.
Oh no, no problem, no problem. You made several good points, but I would start by saying my first hat is community member. I think oftentimes you don't need to be a safety director at a Boys and Girls Club or a co-founder of a nonprofit to make a difference. I start by just being a member of the community, and when I see a need, I try to help out. I try to fill a need. There are several nonprofits that when I see, like when people say, "Hey, I need help," I'm going to show up, right? So I think that's anybody can show up. You don't need to be anything to show up, but a community member. So then with Present Pillars, we just pretty much want to support dads so that we could start long term building stronger children. I think a lot of time when we think about solutions, we think, okay, well, what can we do tomorrow? Well, other people can think about that. I want to see what we can build for 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line. And so if we can kind of start to foster that level of change, we can start thinking about, well, what is the future going to be like for our kids, right? Not necessarily like how can we solve violence right now. And I want to also add, it's not the police department's job to stop violence, right? That's a community-wide job. That's not. How many officers do you have now?
Oh, well, just know that we're down about half.
Right. So no matter how many it is, we're asking what 20 or less people to solve issues that for 9,000. Like mathematically, like that doesn't even sound right. So it takes neighbors, it takes community members, it takes dads, it takes moms, It takes everybody to solve this issue, and it really troubles me to just hear people say, "Well, Director McGinnis, what are you going to do? What are we going to do?" We got to take the you out and say, "What are we going to do?" Because it really takes that all hands on deck thing.
Absolutely terrific. I totally agree with you. So I think I would say, and not we didn't have these things didn't happen because of Chat with the Chief. Don't get me mislabeled what I'm saying. But I think when we came on, Chat with the Chief started kind of with kind of like a desperation to get out there and be able to talk to the people, have a venue, and communicate. And it's been so the people that we have been honored to be able to come in contact with have been very successful. So now I'm saying, okay, the next 6 months, what does that look like? I think for me, I'm going to push to continue to take all these organizations that we're identifying. We got Present Pillars, that's your organization. That's for male role models and leadership. We got 400 Black Nick Blues organization. And what's nice, you guys are strategically placed. Like I believe I'm strategically placed by God into this position. You guys are strategically placed because Nick works for the high school. You work for the Boys and Girls Club. So the very people that we're trying to affect, you've been implanted into positions in those. I think that's divine. I don't think that's happenstance. After you working with John Sams, he had an event that was health minded. So we got young guys are really kind of hitting all aspects of the diaspora for a family and human services. Of course, you got Ashley that does what she does with the blanket of things that she does as far as supporting the community. Her little self is a little mighty dynamo. Again, needs to be exposed to the same element that some of these charlatans from back in the day got hold of this money and kept it for themselves. Again, that's probably another conversation itself too. Anyway, somebody that's really trying to do something for the community and putting their money where their mouth is. And you guys, James, of sort, have kind of unofficially kind of formed your own kind of little kind of alliance because you guys are all kind of separate, but you're not. Present Pillars is not the same as 400 Black, which is not the same of Ben Harbor Community Development Corporation, if I'm saying that correctly. Again, Jumpstart, you're all different, but they're working to the same. So talk about that, what you guys have done to really pull an alliance together of all these services and all these great ideas. Oh, bless you, sir.
So for me, this is born of Nick, Ashley, and I all went to creative arts, so we've known each other since first and second grade. But even further than that, we see energy. So a lot of times when people say, "Oh well, I want to help change the community," you'll find a lot of people that's in it for self. You'll find a lot of people that's in it, not in it for like us, we, the collective, right? So I think for us, we noticed that our energy is the same, and we're all moving in the same direction. So, and we also know how hard it is to start these things and sustain these things, and we don't want to fizzle. So we support each other. Just this morning, Ashley sent me an email about a project that's really mine, but she's on me about it, right? And over the weekend, she was doing a cleanup at her garden, and I'm going to show up. Like Shaquille was there, driving a bobcat around, cleaning up the yard, and like that's the level of support that you have to have for each other. Because if not, what ends up happening is the great work that we're doing, it fizzles because nobody felt supported, right? So everything is really community led, like in the Ben Harbor Community Development Corporation, right? I'm a part of that community development. Nick is a part of that community development, right? Ashley is a part of that community development. So it's really just that collective mind state and working with people that are like-minded being that, hey, this is about us and not me.
Yeah, that's terrific. And I know when we met last week, I kind of posed a question, and I'm gonna ask it again because you kind of hit on it a little bit. So you guys are trying to start these various organizations and these initiatives, and hadn't always had the best, I guess, reception or success. So do you find it at times being young, difficult to either A, find the right audience or the open door, or B, people taking you serious because you guys are young. Sounds like pie in the sky until you sit down and realize, like, no, they're actually doing this now. So, what has been your experience as young? You, Ashley, CC, Nick, as you the up and coming leaders of tomorrow, but you're still young today. Has that been any hindrance for you?
I think it's been really an internal issue for me. Is what I found out. When I was paying attention to people that didn't receive me properly, or as Ashley say, OGs don't OG like they used to. Um, when when those types of things happen, I internalized it. I made it about me when it's not about me, and I started to focus on the people that I can help, right? Because I do help. Like, so focusing on the work that you do and not on naysayers or negativity or doubters or anything like that. I don't see them anymore. I just keep on building in my direction. And if whoever wants to build in that direction, hey, you're more than welcome. But if you're trying to tear this down, I don't see crabs no more. They don't exist because that's their power. Their power is you paying attention to them. So I just don't give them any attention anymore.
Man, that was powerful. And you said that with a straight face too. And you mean it. I can tell by your eyes.
I'm dead serious.
You are dead,
I'm dead serious.
you are dead serious. So that's awesome. So what I hear is a young man that you have a mission, and you're not going to allow many things to put you off mission. Just reading through your words and by your countenance, I think you believe in what you're doing. I also believe that you are aligned. The Bible says iron sharpeneth iron, so too does the countenance of a friend. Two cannot walk together unless they agree. So I think that just again, like you guys just group, it'll grow. It might even more for even be absorbed into a bigger or larger group, because I think there are many more people out there. We're not just saying it's just these couple of people, these couple organizations that care, have the answers from Ben Harbor. We're not saying that at all. What we are saying is we want to unite as many of those organizations, agencies as possible, because ultimately we are on the same page. And the number one problem that we deal with in Benton Harbor, and that's on every aspect, is you got different people operating in different silos. You got many people doing the same thing, and they don't know because they're not even communicating with each other. And that's a problem. And what's even more crazy or even more significant to that issue is the fact that in this day and age, there should be no reason for people not to communicate and know certain information. Now, I get, people say, well, I put it on Facebook. Well, I mean, ain't anybody on Facebook. So, and if they are, if you got, 700 friends, you're not looking at 700 updates. So if you got, 20 organizations you follow, you're not going, I don't have time for all that. But that is something that we are working towards. So anyway, James, what would be your suggestion moving forward to unite with and work with and consort other organizations that are out there that are on this vision, this quest?
Well, speaking as a leader for Present Pillars, what we're trying to develop is a community approach to our fatherhood crisis, right? So to me, that means that Michigan Works helps people find jobs, right? The director of public safety can help with, hey, you have a warrant, right? You need to fix that, right? We can work with FOC to make sure dads are communicating and making sure that child support is in order, or their custody and parenting issues are in order. We can work with the hospital to make sure guys are healthier. We can work with the schools to make sure they're involved in their children's education. But it's really a community approach. It's not just a siloed approach. And a lot of times we have to have those conversations and break down those barriers, because just like when we first talked, and I won't get specific, but there were issues that prevented you from working with an organization, right? Right. So to break down those barriers, conversations have to happen. Sometimes those are hard conversations. Sometimes they're easy. Sometimes it's so easy that you wouldn't even believe it. Right. It's just that it never happened. So I think conversation, communication, that's what it takes. And just figuring, like, just really being intentional about finding out who does what, right? What piece of the pie do you have that can make this an entire pie? So that's kind of how I approach it. But then as an individual, always have your sleeves rolled up. Like, always be ready. When people are calling, show up. It's really that easy. Show up. Like, people could have showed up at the garden this past weekend, but they didn't, right? I don't know why. Maybe they were busy, but I know we could have had more participation, and that's always the case. I don't think you'll find a organization or a school or anything around here that would say, "Hey, I wish people showed up more." It's an issue everywhere. Like, there are people out here that's really trying to make a difference, and they'll spend resources and time and all of this stuff. They'll plan these things, and everybody's complaining about what exists or there's nothing to do, but nobody shows up. So show up. Put your voice in. Make sure your voice is heard. Like, it's not on any organization or person to make sure that we're not coming with a microphone and say, "Hey, what do you have to say?" Right? You got to come to the forum. Right? You got to speak up. Bring your own megaphone if you have to, but make your voice heard. Make your presence felt as a community.
That's critical, James, and that's our biggest problem. And I think the biggest problem that faces Ben Harbor as a whole, across all avenues, is apathy. Apathy for what happens in your neighborhood, what happens at the schools. Parents got kids that play sports, they don't go support them. I remember when I coached at Ben Harbor High School, on a freshman team, we had 36 kids on our team, actually 2 years in a row. And the most parents that we had at a game was 6. When I'm volunteering, working with Rocket Football these weekends here, you got all these kids, you got 17 to 22 kids on the team, you might see 4 or 5 parents. That's an issue. That burns me to death, but that is one of the huge indicators of what we're trying to change in our community. So I want to read a couple comments. We got a couple long ones here. Jerry Edwards is like, it's very important for the OGs to take the hand of the young Gs so the foundation will remain. Yeah, it's a challenge for sure, because these young Gs think they know everything and don't want to hear from the old Gs. It's definitely a different cohort for the youth that are going on now. Here's somebody, Cameron Gunter says, this applies to our topic here. I believe that everyone makes mistakes, and some people make worse mistakes than others. But people change and turn their life around completely, but it's still hard for people to make a living and get past their mistakes. If someone gets in legal trouble and has something on their record, they are judged on what's on the record, not the person that they have become. Don't judge a book by its cover, and people need to understand that people can change. That is a good point, and that's a point that I've made before, and I know that different venues, different avenues, have different requirements. But overall, one of the things that I've said, and you'll hardly ever hear this. Hey, Katie Boss, the topic we get kind of talking about what people have done in the community the last 6 weeks. Some people that have been on the show, just kind of recapping some of their successes. And we had some good conversation by some OGs that's on here. So it's been a good conversation so far. So welcome, good to see you back. Let me get to Shaquille. What's Shaquille saying? I didn't just period this. Here we go. All right, keep it low. I'm seeing asterisks, so calm down. Since for me as a young person, it's hard for older people to believe that as young people, we are willing to put our hands to work to better our community. That was something. Oh, that keeps me off about BH leadership. One thing I can say is BHDPS never judged me, but was willing to find ways to get into the community, rebuild trust, accountability. Last week, BHDPS Fire was busy, and first time I know that has done that within the community. So, well, thanks, Shaquille. And he's an example of what I believe is because Shaquille wasn't always pro public safety. He had some concerns that he had posed, and again, fair. Shaquille Turner, Dennis Holbrooks. Let's have those conversations. Yeah, your experiences your where you are is shaped by your experiences, and if bad experiences has shaped you and has to do with the department or police, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that again, Dennis. I promise. As soon as I'm get done with chapter chief, I'm gonna call back state police. All right, so that's that. Let me see here. 1 Corinthians 13. Ashley Brown. Look, come on, girl. Come on now. Really love the community spirit in Ben Harbor. We have a few home sites on Baird and very grateful to be part of the community. Well, we're glad you're part of the community too. Welcome. I think that's the same. What is this here? She's saying we have 28 motorhome we are bringing to the property today. Oh, that's probably going to be maybe an issue here. We could check with code compliance. Okay, that's what we got so far, guys. I appreciate the comments, the discussion. So, all right, James, again, moving forward, because again, we're gonna be talking about that forum. So let's go back and talk about that, because that's the last time you were here. Again, that was a forum. Oh, let me also say this. We had, remember how the summer started? It was shootings. We had homicides. Gun violence was out of control. We had just some churches that came together, had some prayer meetings. Usually it's the four same churches. Greater Grace, Bethel, Baptist, New Bethel. I'm sorry, New Bethel Baptist, Bethel CRC, Grace Christian. That's in St. Joe. It's come together. Pastor Montgomery was with us one time. So we had prayer going on. We had some other things that were going on with leaders that had programs. And if you notice, there was a change in the city from how it started to this last 6 months. That's kind of why I'm kind of talking about the last 6 months, because there had been, and I've talked to kids at the Boys and Girls Club. I've talked to kids at LMC. I've seen kids in church. And James, here's one thing, and I want to ask you this question. Are you seeing the same thing? So yeah, we got our youth that right now are in a very challenging position. Yes, they have some very unhealthy stimuli that is feeding into kind of a surrealistic view on life. There's a lot of kids that have never been in church because their mom or dad had not been in church. They don't know what that's like or what that influence should be or that relationship should be. So those things they have kind of going against them now. However, here's my question to you, James. However, what I have seen, we're bashing these young kids. They don't care. They do this, that, the other. They're violent. They're listening to rap. But if you engage them properly, you will have their attention. That forum, before we lost their attention, that forum, the whole room, every young person was like this because they wanted to hear. So I'm telling you, they want as much as we want change in the community, change in this violent atmosphere. They'll listen. James, tell me, am I wrong? Have you seen the same thing?
I think absolutely. What you feed will grow, right? So if we feed into this narrative that our kids are violent or this or that, that's what'll grow, right? What did they say? You put them in the cage, they'll act like animals, right? And that means mentally too. So we have to raise the ceiling. Right now, the ceiling is way too low. The expectation is way too low. My challenge to everyone in Ben Harbor that actually cares is to focus in on youth, right? All winter long, I'm sure crime is down. People don't really go outside. It's cold. But when weather starts to break, be a part of these planning processes for next summer, right? And let's be intentional about focusing in on youth and what they have to do in the summertime. I promise you our crime rate will be way less than it was this year, right? And then the other part with that summit, I think what that summit proved is that, yes, we can get 200 kids in one room to listen, right? Mm-hmm. So typically this narrative is, and you brought it up the other day when you said it's a few hundred people, a couple hundred people out of 9,000 that are really like causing disturbances and keeping stuff up, right? So for the rest of us, 9,000, what are we going to do? Like, how can we make ourselves the dominant culture of safety, right? A lot of these boys ain't toting guns because they like to tote guns. They toting guns because they don't feel safe.
Right.
right? And then we look at band-aids. We try to put band-aids on gunshot wounds. Like it don't work like that. That's a metaphor. It don't work like that. Like that's not, you can't do first aid on gunshot wounds and then say, oh, you're good now, right? No, you need surgery, right? You got to go to the hospital. We have to look and really try to fix the real root issues, because if not, it's gonna keep on looking like, you're out and you're limping and, oh, I'm okay. You're not, right? You're not okay. So how can we? Ben Harbor's not okay. Like we need to figure out what are these root issues and dive into them. So for next summer, summer with dad is what we call it. I would love to see a host of men, uncles, granddads, cousins, brothers, come to our planning sessions in February for the summertime, right? Tell us what we need to do. Tell us what we need to see, right? The funding will be there. The energy will be there, right? We'll feed you whatever we need to do. But let's plan for next summer. Let's get out ahead of this, because when the weather breaks, we know what happens. It happens every year, right? Weather breaks, violence goes up. So how can we get ahead of this? What do we need to figure out, right? Do we need more teen summits? Do we need listening sessions with the teens? Like, what do we need to do to make sure that next summer isn't like this summer?
That's it. So
What's the plan?
Dennis got another one, so we're gonna put it on. We're gonna read it here. And now, as we're going reading his comment here, I'm gonna ask, I guess maybe on his behalf or somebody like him, or other fathers out there again that might not be part of an organization, if you will. You know, somebody like him. How do you select your volunteers? Could he be an adult role model that can come in and say, "Hey guys, I'm telling you from experience. This is what I've been through, and here's how you can avoid it." Because
I would say if you've never harmed a woman or a child, you're welcome around me. Right? Everything else I could forgive, but those are the only two things that because we will be around children, right? So if you are, and I hate to be so blunt about it, but if you're like a sex offender or something like that, I won't put the movement at risk.
yeah,
To accommodate somebody. But
no, he's nothing like that. You don't have to worry about that.
I'm sure he isn't.
Yeah,
I don't think that kind of person would be on here talking to you.
Not applying for no job with the Boys and Girls Club. That's for sure.
Yeah,
They should know that.
yeah, but I don't even mean the Boys and Girls Club. I mean with Present Pillars. Like,
yeah,
I will work with someone that just got out of prison. I will work with almost anybody, but that women and children thing, that's something I don't bend or play with. So, other than that, let's get to work. So if you're trying to join a movement or just be a part of anything, like you don't have to sign up to be a part of Present Pillars. Like you just got to show up ready to work.
Okay. Here's Dennis. I think it's gonna be our last one for the morning for this chapter, Chief. Definitely could have been different in my life. If my first police encounter would have been positive instead of the police brutality treatment. Got to say you have been better for Ben Harbor. Can at least talk to you. Remember, they gave me the runaround about my ID. When you call, you had me in within an hour. Said every man needs to be able to work. Been working since that week. That's fantastic. Like you said, know each other 20 plus years. Always been respectful to one another because of how we carry ourselves in general. That's true. Again, we can agree to disagree, but he's a good dude. So, and there, some of the stuff, I guess we can go on because this discussion needs to be had about, Dennis is an example, Mr. Gentry's comments. I've said this before, and that's why I want to have a forum and deal with some history of America, Black history in America, particularly, to get some understanding on why there's so much mistrust with the police inherently in African American people. It's inherent, and there's a reason why. You're not going to hear that. You're not going to hear many people in my position say the system is made to keep people in it. Yeah, those applications where it says, if you've been convicted of a felony, check this box here. Well, if you served your time, how much time must you continue to serve? So if somebody goes in and does a year in jail or 5 years in prison or whatever, they get back out, honestly, they're still serving time. I think Dennis and Shaquille can probably speak to this that I know of that's on here on how there's doors that slam in your face simply because you had been in prison or were on parole. So, you're not going to hear a lot of people in my position say the system is made to keep people in it, but show me otherwise. Show me otherwise. And I think Dennis made reference to how long it takes to get out if you can get out. And I'm not laughing to make fun because it's mind boggling that people don't realize. I remember we have a capitalist society. So with that being said, we have to have somebody in charge and somebody on the bottom. Well, what's the best way to easiest group to keep on the bottom? Poor people don't have anything. So that's what the system is kind of made for. It revolves around that. And, you're not going to hear a lot of people say that. My degree is in sociology. That's why it's interesting to me. James, you got something to say, buddy?
Yeah, I want to speak to that point, and then I got to hop off because I got to go to a meeting at work. But there's a system. It's true. There is a system that does keep people in, right? So my counter to that is let's build a system that frees us, right? Let's be intentional about building a system that frees us. And the only way we can do that is to work together. Right. So whatever this system is that's against us, then Harvard is. When I walked into the city hall last time, I went to a city commission meeting. They all look like me, right? When I look at the police chief, he looks like me, right? When I look at the board of education, they look like me. All of these leaders look like me. So why can't we build a system in Ben Harbor that counters oppression? We can. It's just that we play part in it when we don't work together. So
that's it.
What can we build?
Here's one of the honestly the biggest traps in the system, and I think anyone who has experienced this can speak to it. Driving on a suspended license is a revolving door of fines and costs and violations and probation and it's Dennis, isn't probably one of the hardest things you had to do was get over a suspended license deal. I mean, I think this right here speaks to my point specifically. Suspended license, drunk driving, you're gonna spend about 10 grand on a drunk driving. And I'm not saying it's right, don't get me wrong, but I mean, if poor people are already struggling with day-to-day operations, I can put them on these big fines or suspend their license. Well, how do they get to work? So now they violate because they still got to go to work, feed their families, provide for their homes. Now you get popped for a second. Now your car is towed. Now you got to pay this money. It's just this. Let's just be honest, guys. It's this. The system is this to keep people in it. So I love what you're saying, James. As far as the mindset to stay out of it, I think we're a long way from there. We got to deal with kind of again social justice. Is how do we deal with these little things like this? I will say there was a church, although they didn't communicate it with us or any other churches. But anyway, they had a thing for a license expungement or whatnot. So hopefully that went well to get people to be able to drive.
Mm-hmm.
But we're gonna end with this. So again, this is not funny, but this is true. If this is true, then this speaks to my point. Now we're talking about suspended license. He spent $10,000 to date just in that cycle of suspended license. So, not saying right or wrong. It's just that is what it is. That is what it is. So, okay. Well, I appreciate you being on today's show,
Yes, sir.
James. We're going to have Nick on here shortly, and then Ashley. That's going to be fun because she is something else. I like her.
Get ready. Get ready.
A lot. So we have a meeting as we move forward because we're trying to plan. You've heard us make reference to meetings that we've had and upcoming meetings. Right now, we're planning for spring summer 2023, like right now. Myself, the departments, some churches, organizations like Nick, Ashley, James, CC, even people right here who come on who give us ideas or information. We glean all that to get an enforcement strategy, how we're going to attack the issues that we're dealing with. So I appreciate everyone that's on here. James, you got any parting words you want to leave with us, sir?
Yeah, for Mr. Dennis, I would love to connect with you. I think your story, from what you've been saying, is powerful. Your story, I think it should be amplified because a lot of people could identify with it, and if it helps people get through, like you say, you don't want the same things to happen to other people. You can get my information from Chief, or you can email me jgunter@presentpillars.org. My phone number is 305-494-7044. Get with me any kind of way you need to, but I would love to talk to you.
That's fantastic. And thanks, Dennis. Thank First Corinthians Ashley. So this is a cycle of poverty. That's exactly what it is. It's actually culture of poverty. It's a very famous book. We're looking to help people own homes in Ben Harbor, owner occupied housing. That's just what we need because we're 70% rentals right now. So everyone, thank you for being on here and listening to us. We get a little bit behind getting started. The technical difficulties because Mr. Blockhead here is still young and needs his own engineer to follow him around. So we're gonna get Shaquille to give him some technology lessons, and we'll see him in the future and others. So until next week, Ben Harbor, with the Lord bless you and all that you do this week, and we will talk to you later. You've been listening to Chat with the Chief with Director Dan McGinnis. My guest today has been James Gunter, and we will see you the same time next week. Every Monday we're on from 9 a.m. till 10 on Ben Harbor Department of Public Safety Facebook page and on City of Ben Harbor YouTube channel. Talk to you guys later. Be blessed.